this is a little bit different. Hey, over there, there's Josh. Josh,
I'm
there's me.
this way. I think this is the right way.
We're all finding out where we are. There's Ben down there.
We are the Brady Bunch.
We are the Brady Bunch. We're in our own little tiles. That's what they're called in a UI. They're called tiles.
Very pretty. Love it.
We're here on Disney Plus. We're actually here on YouTube, and we're here to talk about She-Hulk Season 1, because there will be another season. There's absolutely going to be another season. This is a spoiler cast, but before we get to spoiling, I'm Will.
I'm Josh.
I'm Sam.
Oh, Ben, that's me.
One half of these tiles have COVID. The other half do not. So
let's see if you can tell through the course of this podcast.
Before we get into spoilers, though, as we usually do, it's nice to go around the horn to see how we all kind of felt about the season with no spoilers, general thoughts. We'll kick off with you, Ben. You just had to have a little talk and a little sip, so I'll let you speak.
I liked the show from the start.
Yep.
I think the first few episodes kicked it off really well. Did we get 2 at the start? I can't remember. It's a long time ago.
No, I think we just got 1.
I don't think so.
I think
I'm thinking of Andor.
Yep.
And yeah, I was like into it. I wouldn't say I was like as crazy into it as a lot of people seem to be. And the show also kind of started dropping off for me along the middle couple episodes. It was one of those shows where I was going to watch it each week, but I was like, there's so many other TV shows to watch. I wasn't that keen on She-Hulk in particular. But then they really brought it back for me in the final couple of episodes to the point where I can pretty confidently say I love the show. So it was a bit of a roller coaster ride, but I'm happy that by the end, it all clicked for me, even if it took maybe a little while personally for it to get to that point. Yep. So yeah.
Sam?
Look, I'm probably in the same boat as Ben. I started off really liking it. And then towards the middle, it did kind of just fall off a little bit for me because I found that there wasn't really much going forward in terms of like plot and story. It was just kind of like things happening. But then, but by the end, it was fine again. It's just, I've got like, I'm not like obsessively in love with it, but I don't hate it. I'm just kind of in the middle, and I've kind of been that way with all of like the Marvel shows so far. There hasn't really been one where there are ones that I've enjoyed better than others, but there's not any that have stood out to me as much as like a Marvel film would, if that makes sense. But overall, it's fine.
But you enjoyed your time on Moon Knight. That was a good time for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shooting was terrible. Yeah,
Josh.
Surprise, surprise. I really liked it. I liked I enjoyed the whole thing. Obviously there were some down episodes, but I didn't hate them. I wasn't like, this show's going to crap. I was like, just like, bit of a lull in this episode, but I still thought that there was some fun stuff in there, funny like cameos and little bits and stuff in there. So overall, I thought it was really fun.
Look, I'm the biggest lover of this thing. There's only one episode I didn't like, and then I loved every other episode. I think the direct middle, it was the mean green and fit into these tight jeans, which was the Titania court case. I think this is the only episode that I outright was just like, what the fuck was that? But every other episode I enjoyed. I just think it is, as someone who has read a few different runs of She-Hulk, they just did it. Like it feels the most like the comics in a way that I don't think the MCU has ever done. There's always little things that are like changed and modified to kind of fit them to a cinematic interpretation, but this feels like Jen Walters, and it feels like the comics as well, which I think is the biggest thing about this show, is that and is probably why I'm able to put a little bit of the criticisms to the side, because it just feels like it's written in the same way a comic book is like, well, the thing on the freebies page isn't that interesting, so we're just going to move on and don't worry too much about the plot. You're just here to have a good time. But yeah, I'm a big fanboy of this. I guess we should start strong with a person that's very important to the show, which is Jen Walters. I assume we all loved her and were very annoyed by all the men in the show that just are big dickheads. Like, just come on, man. Like, if there's one thing that you could take away from this show is that dude's a bit shit.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? As 4 men talking about this show, we're very aware most of them are a bit shit. as I said, Tatiana Maslany is perfect in the role. In a way that a lot of other Marvel characters took a little bit to warm to, is like, this is the definitive version of this character. As soon as she was on screen, there was a lot of S's. I was like, I feel like you've been the voice when I've read the comics forever. Like, I can't unhear you as this character, which is really exciting. And of course, her performance is great. Josh, you're most familiar with her with
yes.
Orphan Black. I mean, other
Orphan
people
Black.
may have watched Orphan Black, but were you excited to see her on screen again? Probably for the first time since then.
Pretty much, yeah. I loved her. She was incredible in Orphan Black, playing like 1,000 different characters constantly, and very different characters as well, despite being clones. But yeah, she's a phenomenal actress. She's so good in this. She always has fun. Every character in Orphan Black, like, there's serious characters, less serious characters, but they're always fun. There's always something about them that you like, kind of like you, or you know, you're a bit of a bitch, but it's funny. But yeah, she was just phenomenal in this. The breakaways to camera, stuff like that, or the fourth wall breaks and stuff. Totally brilliant. So much fun. So much fun.
Sam, you were uncertain, I feel like, of the fourth walls at first, just because it's kind of like, it's for a lot of the general public, it's Deadpool's stick. Even though it wasn't his first, it kind of, in cinematic language in the Marvel universe, it does feel like Deadpool's stick. Did you end up like liking them? And I mean, I
yeah,
you did,
no, I didn't really mind it. I think because the thing with the Deadpool films is, like, I was never like, it isn't an aspect of them where I'm like, oh, this is so cool. It's like, it happens and I'm like, okay.
Yep.
But I think with those, it gets very boring very quickly, because it's always like, there's like a joke in there about like a dick or blood or something that, like,
or both.
Would say. Yeah, or both. Yeah. Whereas in She-Hulk, it felt very natural. And I think they did a perfect thing of, whenever she would talk to camera and talk to the audience, it was to address thoughts and concerns that the audience would have had at that time, which was a lot of like especially in the finale when everything's happening, she's like, what's going on?
What's this about?
Yeah. So I feel like they did handle it really well. And like, I feel like a lot of things going forward now in the MCU, both film and series wise, I'm going to be in the dark about a lot, because I haven't read that far into the comics, and there's a lot of characters that have been introduced that I'm not aware of, She-Hulk being one of them. Obviously, I've known of She-Hulk, but I've never taken the time to go read any of her comics or sort of dive into what the character's about. But it's like what you were saying. I feel like she really did just portray the role perfectly, and even not knowing the comics or knowing the character, it was kind of like, by the end of the first episode, I was like, I feel like that is exactly what she would have been like in a comic page.
Totally.
Which is good. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed what she did with She-Hulk.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still. On the fourth wall breaking, I think the thing that stood out for me versus other fourth wall breaking pieces of content was just that it was like, actually, maybe not initially, but definitely as the show went on, got more and more clever, and didn't feel like it was a like offhanded, like, haha, we can see you kind of thing. Like, it actually felt like it had a purpose, even obviously like everything that happens in the last episode. But even going back to the episode where she first meets Matt Murdock, and she makes like the line about came to a satisfying conclusion, and it's like, that's obviously, it's a sex joke, but it's actually like, it's clever. Very cleverly written as well, and is like alluding to the show as well. It's not just like a haha, we had sex, but like winking at the camera at the same time. There's layers to it, and I think that's what sets that apart, and didn't make it feel like it was just like a like, haha, this character does this and I'm cool and all that.
Totally.
Like Deadpool kind of feels like sometimes. And yeah, Tatiana as She-Hulk, I think is fantastic. I think her as Jennifer Walters is like maybe even more of a highlight, because they're two very different characters. And I think the thing that kind of struck me the most about her performance is, even in the comics, like, Jennifer Walters is still a very what's the word I'm looking for?
confident,
traditionally beautiful woman. Like in the if you tell someone describe a beautiful woman and like the generic like stereotypical version of what someone would do, Jennifer Walters in the comics is that. And I think actually having someone like Tatiana who's like shorter and stuff and doesn't necessarily fit that bill actually was really to the benefit of the show, because it increased, like, it made the dichotomy between She-Hulk and Jen even like more intense and allowed her to play into that a lot more, because it's this thing of, it's not just Jennifer Walters she's playing in those moments, it's like herself as Tatiana. Like when she has those moments of self-doubt and stuff, it's like, well, yeah, I'm like this person and I'm supposed to live up to being the She-Hulk, but I'm just this like normal short woman who like is just going about her job being a lawyer, and like all of a sudden I've got this second life that I've got to deal with that is just completely not me. And obviously it's the whole show is her coming to terms with that, and I think she does a really good job. But I think like I think that's like potentially a really interesting part of it that in the comics doesn't even necessarily get dealt with that much. So yeah, totally.
I did adore, and I mean it was budgetary more so, but I liked how much time we spent with Jen comparatively to She-Hulk, because it does make the appearances of She-Hulk feel alarming. Like it's like, she needs to be She-Hulk for this specific moment, less so. Because in the comics, I feel like, and especially more recent runs, and maybe we'll head towards it as they get a good-looking model in the film that they can then use in the show cheaply, because that's what happened, basically. Fun fact, Abomination was in Shang-Chi, so that they had a good-looking Abomination model for this show. That's how that went.
Yeah.
Right. You know, visual effects, I mean, we'll talk about that. They look great. But I feel like in the comics recently, it's very much been like She-Hulk exists as She-Hulk, less so Jen, so it was nice to have it the other way in the show.
And this show sort of shows like shows.
There's a lot of S's.
It's shows She-Hulk. That like for most of it, she doesn't want to be She-Hulk so much, so she isn't.
Yeah.
And like you said, like when she is, it's sort of in a way she was forced there.
Yeah.
For a reason, like she's forced there for her job. She has to turn up as
she's
She-Hulk
putting on a suit
for her job, and
which is cool.
Essentially, yeah.
I really enjoyed that. But touching on the 4/4 breaking and all that, the show definitely does a lot to kind of counter a lot of people's thoughts as the MCU gets more inclusive. And I think it's one of the elements that the show does incredibly well. Is it's obviously very meta, but its awareness of what was going to happen week to week is something that I've never seen from a show before. I don't think any other show's really attempted it, but its ability to go, we put this in this episode, we know what the community outcry is going to be, the bad community outcry. So it's a wonderful, like, it's hard to tell someone who's angry about this show why they're wrong. And I know that sounds really bad, because everyone should have their opinions. Agreed. But when a bad person, morally bad person, gives this show grief, and you're able to point at a frame in the show and say, this is why you're wrong, it is something so unique and so wonderful about the show. First episode obviously has a lot of, you know, Bruce Banner is being beaten down by She-Hulk. In the context of the show, it's his cousin. Of course he wouldn't fucking hit his cousin in the face. Obviously. Yeah. Smart person picks that up. The internet is like, oh, you're making Hulk look weak. Female Hulks? What the fuck's this? The following episode, of course, opens with a slew of just bad tweets about the MCU, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's the thing that, like, just drew me through this show. Just knowing how angry it made all the people that we've had to put up with for the past 15 years of the MCU. Just now there's a show that's just like, grow the fuck up, man.
Yeah. The fact that the entire villain in the end was literally that.
It was like, a Reddit user.
that demographic of people, and like that. I saw real versions of those tweets still exist on the internet after every episode, and I was like, "Are you not watching this? Clearly not, because it's just like they are literally saying the exact things that they're putting up on the screen, and like, and even stuff like when." The episode after Wong shows up and she's like, oh yeah, sorry, Wong's not in this week. I know you'll all be upset. And it's like, like people are
stupid,
and it's incredible. Like, I mean, to an extent, it's like, it's incredible that they were able to keep on the pulse of that. But also, I imagine it was very predictable for them at the same
That's
time.
the funniest part. Like, it's because there are people that are like, the bad people. Let's just call them let's call them Intelliger or whatever the fuck it was called in the show.
Intelligentsia.
Let's call them that. They will tweet out and be like, well, of course we're angry because you wrote it that way. And it's like, yeah, but you're getting angry about something you shouldn't be getting angry about. That's the joke. Like, yes, they knew you were going to get angry about that, so they put it in the show, but you shouldn't be getting angry about it in the first place. That's the funny thing.
It's like the article that I sent you last night, Will. There's just a line that says, much like a character in the episode, in the final episode. The She-Hulk finale also insults and mocks all the MCU fans when she breaks the fourth wall, and we all know what happens.
We'll talk about that yet.
But just that line, insults and mocks. This is a proper article from Cosmic Book News. Just like insane.
Hate it.
So
checks out.
Yeah. and so other than that, I hadn't experienced, like, I'm not on the internet looking at kind of reviews and what people are saying about this. I'm not on sort of across Twitter and stuff like you guys are. But I experienced it in person in a comic book shop. A female saying she was not going to watch this show because of what she had read about it on the internet. And she's like, if they're treating women like that, or what, like stuff like that, I'm like, just watch the show, give it a go. Give it one attempt. Like, you'll probably enjoy it, but it was, they gave you talking to a bunch of other people.
A Hulk short film for the first episode. Be happy. Like, if you need a hook, they gave you a good first episode.
Crazy.
And I think that's actually something I wanted to bring up, is that this show, obviously, like so much of Phase 4 of the MCU, suffered major reshoots, major reshuffles, and stuff like that. And the main thing being Episode 1, which is the Hulk and She-Hulk, the origin story, was originally Episode 8. So it was originally before the finale, and all of that plot got plopped into the first episode, which reshuffled the entire structure of the show. And when I found out about that, I obviously loved the show from the off. I was like, oh god, this is going to be like every other Phase 4 property, where it's like, just feels like a jumbled, broken mess of empty, but it isn't. Like, it's just this constantly ever-evolving thread of stories, which wrap up in a way that I don't think anyone could predict, obviously. But I just wanted to bring that to attention, that this is the one Phase 4 project that actually stuck its landing. I think
the interesting thing is on the surface level, it kind of looks like a jumbled, broken mess, because every episode is really jumping between different set pieces and stuff. But I think it does a really good job of subtly weaving each episode into previous storylines in a way that I don't think any of the Marvel shows have done so far.
No.
It's before now, it's been very heavy-handed. Like, this is what happened last week. Remember last week? Remember what happened back then? Whereas, like, and I think it's to the benefit of the story they're telling, almost like a lower stakes story. There's not a lot of major world shaking events happening, but it's like we are journeying through Jennifer Walters' experience as She-Hulk and learning to be She-Hulk and Jen at the same time and stuff. So, like, naturally, that's just someone living their life. So they're going to go through all the different things that you do. One week you go to a wedding, the next week you're doing a court case on this, and then, like, doing all the different things that, like, would be a part of your life, just living your life. But then at the same time having these threads kind of going through the whole thing that, like, as I said in the middle episodes, I was kind of like, where is this going? Like, you're losing me a little bit. But by the end, they wove those back into the point where I was like, no, this is a cohesive story. Even if like on the surface level, it's like, wow, this is like weird timing to be having like a wedding in like the 6th or 7th episode. We don't have a lot of time left.
Which she says.
Totally.
Weddings never come at a good time.
I mean, I fucking adore that. And I think a lot of those missteps episodes, which I loved them all. Genuinely, my favorite episode of the series is the retreat episode. That's my favorite ep. I just love it. I love every second of that episode. I think the show is the best TV show they've made, because, like you say, it's very serialized. It's very much like the thing that happens is happening now, and we'll come back to that other thing when we need to. It doesn't feel like a 6-hour movie cut into portions. But I also do think that a lot of the weaker episodes wouldn't feel as weak if it was just that binge drop of just, 4 hours of TV that you could just watch back to back, especially because the show does have those, Wongs and Daredevils and stuff that a lot of the fans that aren't there just to watch a show and they're excited to see a thing. It's like, and the show is very aware of that. They're anticipating more than they're just enjoying. And I think I had hooked into so much of the show that I was just kind of letting it happen that I didn't need a plot. Like if this show was, and I think the other thing is it maybe needed to be longer for the kind of looseness of the plot to be okay with a lot more people. I think if you were looking at maybe a 12 episode series and there were more filler episodes, there were more episodes to kind of distance from the Titania stuff from Abomination, it would feel more sitcom-y because, the show does open with her saying it's a fun lawyer show. And I think she does one case in the show. If there's one thing that I wish there was more of, there would be Jen Walters' lawyering. You could technically say her going to the retreat is looking after one of her clients, but even that's a bit of a stretch. So if there is a second season, I would love to see more lawyering, which I think would help the kind of openness of the plots. If it's something similar to this, it's like, well, if there's a very thin through line, but there's like consistent great court cases, throughout the season, it wouldn't feel as kind of floppy, I guess.
You told me you didn't like the court case with the random elf lady.
I did like that a lot. I did.
Yeah, I didn't.
You didn't like that?
Oh. No, I don't know. I just, it not one of my favorite moments. But, you liked it, so clearly it worked for someone.
It worked for someone.
Yeah.
At the midpoint of this podcast, why don't we talk about our favorite episodes? It'll stir thoughts, I'm sure. Sam, do you have a favorite ep off the dome?
Just like off the top of my head, the first one.
Yep.
Because I just like seeing things come to be. So I was very curious as to how she was going to get the Hulk abilities and what that was going to involve and how, the Hulk that we know and love was going to be involved. Like I was excited for all of that. So I think just seeing them on like that little bit of land and, him trying to teach her how to be a Hulk and her being like, I don't want to be a Hulk.
Yeah.
It was like, I just thought it was a good way to kick off the series and really gave a great vibe for what we could expect along the way.
Totally.
Cause like for me, like, I don't know, it always happens. It's just like the rest of the series is kind of like a bit of a blur for me. It all just kind of like goes into one and I'm like, okay, this happened, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
But it's hard for me to sort of be like, okay, this was that episode, this was that episode. But the first episode for me definitely stuck. So I'm going to have to go with that one.
Totally. It's such a nice, I think I just said on Twitter, it's like, it's such a short film. Like it's such a one shot in its purest form of what Marvel do in the comics, where it's like, oh, we need to explain this thing. So here's just like a book-ended little piece of content. I loved it. Also, I love that when she wakes up and she's in the living room, there's like an Ultron head and Hulk's massive Sakaar helmet. That's and the little Avengers theme floods in. It's very nice. It's very good. Whoever, Ben?
Do it. We're not allowed to pick the last episode, I assume.
We'll just talk about that. We'll just spend the whole...
And I feel like someone else is going to pick episode 8. So I'm going to go with the Donnie Blaze one, the magician one.
That's my...
Damn it.
Oh, okay. Well, now one of you can pick episode 8 because that was also a good episode. I just... initially it was like, oh, it's because Wong's here and like that he's fun and everything. But the actual story they tell throughout that episode is like very good. It is the perfect comic book issue on a TV screen because it is like, of all the episodes, actually is probably the one that has very little consequence for anything outside in the show. But it is a perfect, again, one shot of just this story of this fraud magician who is sending people to all corners of the MCU and like the Marvel universe and stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, the fact that like it wraps up in a court case and we have all that kind of stuff is very cool.
Yeah.
It's probably the first time where I was like, oh, the CGI is good. Because when they fight the little demon babies, it looked very good. That was a very good little fight scene. And it also brought us Madison. Which I think we can all be grateful for.
Absolutely.
And hopefully she appears again.
I wish for some reason she came back at some stage. It would have been such a fun moment.
I'm sure she will. She was a hit
Absolutely.
with the internet.
I think Wong's just like taking people. He's just like Wong is just taking, because he's at the end of the series he took back Abomination. He's got Madison. He's got America Chavez. He's got Ringtra for us.
He's got his own team of Avengers.
Totally, the Wongish show is coming. There's
what happened to Donnie Blaze?
He just can't do magic anymore. He lost the case, and
that's right. There's a court case for it.
Yeah.
What I will just say very quickly about him, and just it sort of shows just like how people were kind of finding things to be mad about with this show. Like this is a direct thing that happened where I was talking to someone about it and they hated it because his name was too similar to Ghost Rider. And they felt like it was mean to the fans and that it was just it was just annoying. And I was like, because like when I was watching it, I was like, that name sounds really like I feel like I've heard that before.
Me too.
After it, I was like, oh, it's Ghost Rider, but it's like a different take, whatever. And I was like, oh, well, that's fun. And then someone was just straight up like, I fucking hate the show because of this.
They knew it so bad as well because like they had a frame of it in the trailer as well, and people slowed down that frame and were like, it's Johnny Blaze.
Oh my god, he's in there.
Like they knew people would buy it at that hook. And I love it.
I just thought it was such a dumb thing to pick on. Like, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it.
And I think that ep is the formula that I'd like them to adopt. If they like double the length of the next season, it's like more of that kind of peppered throughout the show. I think would be awesome. And that's why I kind of like the elf thing, because the elf thing is kind of what I would like to see. Maybe not with an elf shapeshifter that can turn into Megan Thee Stallion, which is amazing. Another scene that they just knew what the internet would.
To be clear, I don't dislike the Megan Thee Stallion and the story of it. I just dislike the elf character specifically. I found her annoying. But that's probably the point.
She made Pugsley look like a bad man, and that's not cool. You shouldn't do that. Pugsley is perfect. Perfect man. You know what's annoying about Pugsley, though? I wish he was ugly. Because it's like, it's not fair that he's both, like, a good man and attractive. Because then it's like, come on. Like, that's such a fucking high bar now.
Totally.
What's that? Watching him in his little fucking vest and the open shirt in the final episode, I'm like...
Honestly, just everyone that works at the law division, they're all just, like, insanely attractive. And it's like, that's not okay.
They're very good people.
And your lawyers,
I guess
you get a lot of money.
They're like good people. But...
It's just wild. Anyway.
No, I love that. That was going to be my number one. If someone took my number one, but Josh, please.
Yeah. Mine would also be that, but we've already talked about it. So my
that's really funny. I genuinely picked it thinking no one else would.
It's so good though. My next one would probably be The People versus Emil Blonsky, which is the one with we've also been talking about it, but just having Emil Blonsky in it, like his character is so good. And I think I mentioned to Will, like his performance of the character it's the most relaxed, like legitimate human in the MCU. Like
it feels weird. It almost feels odd.
It feels like a real guy that they just filmed for a while and he was just talking. Like it didn't seem like he was acting at all. It's just a guy having a chat to some actors and not realizing that they're filming it. Like Tim Roth. Just his performance throughout the whole thing, phenomenal. And so I think having him, return as Abomination, but not as Abomination till later. As just Emil Blonsky, amazing, phenomenal performance, and that was a standout moment. Is just their initial discussions and the court case, I think, in the next episode and stuff.
This was just on the Abomination Blonsky thing. This was a thing I saw. There's a real internet hate. This was the thing I saw probably people are most up in arms about, was the fact that he wasn't scary, or he just wasn't the same character from the original Hulk movie. And I was just like I kind of get it, but at the same time, that movie came out like 14 years ago at this point and is barely ever acknowledged to even exist.
It's totally that thing of like, you didn't love it when it came out.
No.
Like, you didn't care.
Yeah.
Did people realize they can go to the comics and find the characters that they're actually wanting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
That
watch,
they exist elsewhere?
or watch Incredible Hulk again if you miss him.
Yeah.
The movie,
Yeah.
it didn't go anywhere.
Go watch it and then realize, oh yeah, no, it wasn't that great.
Wasn't that good? I love that. I love his performance as well because he has such an air of uncertainty. Like, even though he's doing everything he can to be like, I'm good. Like, don't worry about me. Like, I'm totally reformed. The whole series, you're like, are you though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you? And you don't want him to change because you're like, no, I do. I legitimately love that you've reformed. This is awesome. But the whole time you're like, come on now. And the show obviously again knows.
Even when he shows up at the end, you're like, oh no, come on. I really thought you had it. But then he's like, he did.
He
was just a bit of an idiot
he was
as
just
well.
getting paid.
Yeah. He becomes like Silly Hulk, basically.
Yeah. I love it. I also love shit on the internet because there was a lot of like hate on like, you know, he's kind of Korg-like, but there's something so unique about his performance that I'm like, it's totally different. You're just seeing a big man be nice, and you're like, Korg. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. We might as well talk.
Here's what I...
Yeah, so go on.
Sorry, I was just thinking real quick. Here's what I hope Fin Fang Foom is whenever he shows up, but like a giant dragon.
Yeah.
Instead of... Also because of the fin ears. That's all.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because there's so many different interpretations of him, but that'd be nice if he's just
a funny Fin Fang Foom.
Yeah. I'll talk about the elephant in the room. I've already mentioned the retreat. I adore him. It kind of is covered with how much we loved Emil. But we'll talk about the blind elephant in the room, which is all the way over there. Daredevil, his episode 8. Again, just a really good one-shot story with She-Hulk and Matt Murdock. Jen Walters and Matt Murdock. I think they nailed...
And Leapfrog.
Sorry, yeah, the whole Discord would kill me if I didn't mention Leapfrog. I don't think we ever expected them to not do him well, but they did such a good job of bringing over the kind of more mature presence that the whole Netflix world had, whilst also letting him be a Marvel Cinematic Universe character that he was always light. Like, he was probably the least depressing of all the characters in the Netflix universe. Like, Jessica Jones had an alcohol addiction. Luke Cage was just a sad big man. Iron Fist was bad. Just bad. Whereas Daredevil,
I've never seen any of those shows, so your description of them is very funny.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas Daredevil had a life. Like, Daredevil had friends. He was like, he had a pretty decent thing going, so he was never really that sad. So the fact that a lot of the internet was like, oh, we're going to make him happy and like, really fun. I was like, no, he already was that. Like, he was obviously had a lot of things going against him, and he had to fight through that, and that was the emotional core of those shows. But as a person, Daredevil was always kind of like, he was the... If Arrow in the CW show was one of the dads in the CW show, that's Daredevil. He was always ready to give like a motivational speech to someone, and that's what he's here for. He comes in at the last moment when Jen isn't certain of who she wants to be and how She-Hulk can work with her, and just is like, so I got you sorted. This is how it works. You're good. And it's great. And we get all the elements of a Daredevil episode. Like, we get the corridor fight, and we get like little quick whip. I adored it. I think that it does bring to light my least favorite thing in the show, which is the wardrobe man. I just think that little thing was... It could have been a lot more than it was, and I think the fact it wasn't enough just made it such a mute point in the whole show. It was like, oh, cool. Like, how does he fit in the universe? Oh, okay. It doesn't actually matter. Like...
Yeah, it feels like in the end he was just a vehicle for Matt to be in LA,
in
which
LA.
is like, you could have gotten that delivered.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, parcel post. Get somewhere. I don't know if we need to talk much more on that, but it's one of those ones where it's like, it feels world-breaking. It doesn't matter, but it feels world-breaking in the way that, like, the whole show kind of does. It's like, hey, you know how we've followed, like, 6 people throughout the MCU? Well, fun fact, there are millions of superheroes, and this dude gives them costumes. And it was like, I mean, cool, but, like, holy shit, that's a lot of information to take in, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was ready for that, but, Daredevil was very good. Anyone else got any thoughts on Daredevil? Anyone watched the show? Sam, were you a Netflix Daredevil?
No. I never watched any of those shows. Purely just because there wasn't really anything that like grabbed me about them.
Yeah.
But having him in She-Hulk though, I found it very cool because but yeah, like having him in this show, I thought was very cool because for someone like me who hasn't really experienced that character before in terms of like a live action series, it was fun. And I definitely like very, very quickly, like I think it was pretty much when they got to like the hallway fight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. I know why people enjoyed like many seasons of this.
Yeah, totally.
So I could definitely understand why the hype was there. And it was just, I feel like again, not seeing the show, like this was my first viewing of, him, and seeing him as like Matt Murdock. And then when he's suited up, it's so different.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. Because as Matt Murdock, he's wearing the glasses and he acts like a blind man.
Yep.
But then when he suits up to fight crime, it's like, no, you can see.
Yeah.
And you can tell that because like his head's moving a lot more. He's making more eye contact, well, what looks to be eye contact anyway. And it's like, oh, this is cool. So it really sort of showed me how him as a lawyer and like just as like an everyday man walking around, he puts on more of an act. Kind of like with Superman and Clark Kent, it's like as Clark Kent, he acts like a bit of a dumbass.
Yeah.
But then when he's Superman, he's so like confident and to the point in what he's doing. And I thought that sort of, seeing those two in the same show is pretty cool. But again, on the dumb thing that people are hating, same person that hated the little hint at Ghost Rider, just hated the fact that we saw his cowl in the box. And I was like, I was so confused because I was like, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's a cool thing of like, he's coming.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This man has never heard of a teaser before.
Yeah, I was like, why is that bad?
Yeah.
And they were just like, it's just dumb. And I was like, but why is it dumb? And like they couldn't give me a genuine reason why it was dumb. It was dumb.
Like the uproar about the fact that, I mean, in the show, if we're talking about favorite lines in the whole show, my favorite line is the like, it's a bit weird there's a wedding episode after that. Like, were you expecting something else? Like, that fucking broke me. That was phenomenal.
Good.
But it's totally that thing of, like, I was thinking about it. I'm like, in Doctor Who, they'll tease the Daleks at the start of the season and they're not in it until the end. Like, that's how TV works.
See, and I think with a lot of people now, it's like, back like when we were all younger and like would watch TV shows like Who and other things, it's like I feel like the way that those shows were made and sort of played out throughout series has kind of inbuilt in us what to expect from these in a way, like not to the point where we're like aware. But it's just like these things will happen and we'll be like, yeah, cool. Like it's not anything that's going to make us mad or upset because we've witnessed this through so many years of watching TV shows.
Totally.
Whereas there's a large portion of the audience now where they've mainly just grown up on films and not so much on TV shows and they're kind of like confused.
Yeah, totally.
But like, even with that, it's not hard to understand.
No.
Like, it's not out of the blue and weird to like just tease things.
Totally. The uproar, but I mean, I loved it because it let the show just fucking screw with them in the best way.
But again, it was a thing where the show was just very aware and knew what people were going to be upset about. Yeah. And I thought that, again, it was just still amazing. But yeah, sorry, Josh.
That's right. I was just going to say, like, if people are fans of the MCU and don't like teasers, no one liked Iron Man 2, but Iron Man 2, there was a Captain America shield in the middle of Iron Man 2.
That's true. And he didn't turn up in that movie.
Nah, but it's basically exactly what they did here. Yeah. It's just like, hey, this is coming.
They sat for 10 years to get to Thanos getting all the fucking gems.
And with that, it's like, what? So did you just not watch any of like the scenes at the very end of the credits for MCU films because you hate TV?
Yeah. Oh, fuck, man.
This is a rabbit hole we can get down.
This is what the MCU is about, is teasing the next thing. That's all they ever do.
Hate it. Anyway, yes.
Yes. Just one more thing on this episode, because obviously she goes on her rampage at the end, which is very well done, I thought. And damage control shows up to apprehend her. Just wanted to ask, what the hell is going on with damage control? Why are they everywhere? Like, is this leading up to something, or are they just going to be the dudes
the goons,
all the time?
Are they goons, or are they
like,
henchmen? We never know.
Because it was No Way Home, Miss Marvel, and now this that they've showed up in. And that's like a lot in a small period of time.
In No Way Home, they were like interrogating are superhuman and then just normal children. In Ms. Marvel, they went to a high school to interrogate a child, a normal human, and then this time they're interrogating a full-grown adult, or like what is their specifics? What are they targeting? Are they just targeting?
And in Homecoming, they were just taking alien equipment and cleaning up the city.
That's there it is. Yeah,
literal damage control.
Yeah, in that they are just doing the thing that they're named for. Yeah, I don't know.
But now they're just all...
I don't have an answer for this. I'm just chucking it out there into the ether of like...
I still like the idea that they're building to like some sort of task, a Trask, like from the X-Men stuff. Like,
true.
I think it would like be interesting if that was a thing going forward, where like the more you see of them, the more you see them sort of not going by like the rule book per se. And I mean, look, it's been done, but like it'd be cool if they were like an extension of like Hydra or something. And it was like, because there was just one guy that survived, and he was like, I'm going to start it up again.
Cut one head off, a couple more come along, as they say.
That would be cool. Yeah, I'd be into that.
Yeah. I mean, they've got to do that, right? They've got to bring back all the organizations that are crumbled. That's comics. Like, they got to come back around.
Yeah.
But speaking of coming around, I had a stroke. Speaking of coming back around, the finale, which, of course, we all just sat there slack-jawed and just laughing it all up, because it was just... the epitome of what I wanted from the show, what I'm sure people who didn't know they wanted it from the show are very happy it happened and were like, oh, of course that's what I wanted from the show. And the reason that we're sitting in tiles right now. We all love it?
So much.
Yeah.
Oh,
freaking
Sam's tiles like quaking.
Yeah, I was like audibly... like out loud was like, what the heck? Like, and I live alone. There was no one else with me, and I was like yelling at my television.
Yeah,
I was so stoked. It was so much fun. Sam, quiver away.
Quiver.
No. Like, I didn't in any way hate it. I really did like it because it was the most like meta thing.
Totally.
Ever.
Yeah.
And it was cool, like seeing her go through like the MCU like head office, and like because whenever you see someone on social media who's like, you know, like they do interviews and stuff for their job or whatever, at some point in time you've seen like that Marvel
blue
Studios
wall
logo against like the blue wall.
Yeah.
So seeing that, it's like, oh, it's the thing.
Yeah.
But my only thing was when it gets to the point where she's like, okay, I want to change A, B, and C about this ending. I was just a bit like, it was a bit jarring for me when it went from that, because I thought we were then going to see her ending play out. And I just thought that'd be really cool. But then it just sort of cut to after the fact.
Totally.
I would have just liked there to actually be like a plot ending to this, like just having seen something, like basically the idea of what they had for this show, like just seeing that thing play off from the beginning all the way through to the end where there was a big, you know,
for sure,
whatever, big ending. Like that's my only thing. And I understand that it does work and make sense, but I think just for me, it's like I was kind of hoping for like a big ending. And it was big because essentially the ending is her going into the office of the MCU and changing everything. But I think in terms of like
the plot,
the in-universe plot of the show, I would just like to have seen that have been drawn out a little bit more just to see how it would have ended. In that way.
And it's also a question of like, you know, we're following a universe, and it's like, what, like, I mean, obviously she says what takes place, but like, does he have her blood still? Like, does someone still have that blood? Could that still happen? Like, what are the things at play? Like, we get a resolution to Hulk's thing, which is good. We get a resolution to Abomination, but the Todd thing is the only thing that, like, without actually seeing it take place, it's a little bit vague, but I think, you know, in the context of the show, they want you to be like, nothing. It's over. But
because I think for me, it was sort of a thing where when you saw that happening and she was like, what the hell is going on? I was kind of like, no, this is so absurd. I kind of want to see it go through. I was like, I kind of want to see what happens to Todd. Like, does he get thrown into a prison like with Emil? Like, I just wanted to see... I would have liked to have seen a version where you sort of see what happens in their universe instead of what happens in ours.
Maybe it's...
But still, like, it was a great bit.
Season 2 of What If. Calling it now.
Totally. Yeah.
What if the Kevin ending?
What if she couldn't get into the you know into the head office? Into the head office. And change things.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And I think that, you know, it is, like you say, it still functions perfectly. And I think from what I was wanting from the show, I was happy. But I totally get if people were more there for the plot and more for kind of the future of the MCU. It is a moot point in some ways, but I think for me it satisfied me. But I think you're totally like just in that, Sam. Like it is for sure. It's an interesting play, and I think it's perfect for what She-Hulk is, and it is also one of those funny things that in comic books where you've now established such a fucking wild. It's like America Chavez can like punch holes in multiverses. It's like okay, so what do you do with that for the next 10 years of this universe?
That's so true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Because now it's a thing where it's like, is she just able to influence the MCU from now on?
Right,
like is she able to change things?
We get to Secret Wars and Kang wins. Can she just head to Kevin?
Sort of, totally.
But I'm sure we'll never see it happen again. It's the MCU. People have powers in one film and then they're gone in the next. Or Doctor Strange can do funny little circles in one film and summon entire fists in the other one. You don't need to explain it. It'll change. But
but they're cool spiky fists.
I like this. I like the fists. This is like. There was two moments in this series that I let out an audible noise, and I live with my parents, but I was actually in Melbourne for the first audible noise, which is when Matt Murdock walked left to right on screen. I just screamed. I just thought that was the greatest thing that's ever happened in the universe. But
it's a man walking.
Just a man walking left to right with a little like smirk on his face.
He can't do that. He's blind.
He can't walk. I thought that was the best fucking thing. But then this was like when it clicked out and it made the noise out into the Disney Plus home screen. It was the exact same thing with WandaVision when she glitches the time backwards to like skip back a frame to like reset the episode. It was the same thing of like there was a moment. There was a single moment where you're like, is this? Did I? Oh, okay, cool. Which like I again just feels something I've never seen in like anything. Like it's there's so many elements of this show that, and it's because the comics have done it. There's like the end of I think the first run of like the fun She-Hulk comics basically did this, where Jen Walters broke out because she didn't like the ending and she went to see the writers and were like, dude, don't like the ending of this comic, let's fix this. So it's all pre-established, which is wonderful.
Characters have done it before in the comics where they meet God and God is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
This is like classic stuff. And they're just like sitting there writing, like drawing stuff on pages.
Yeah.
It's like this has existed in comics. I feel like that sort of thing also exists as like an internet-y kind of YouTube concept, but never to this level in like a cinematic
professional
way. Yeah. Like it's because YouTube just, you can do whatever the hell you want, like on the internet, whatever, just happens. But yeah, the fact that they took the risk and they just went for it and it worked so damn well.
Felt a little bit like a Corridor Crew video.
Yeah.
Like
it's like seeing her, like you say, Sam, seeing her in the actual office fucked me up. Like watching her walk past that blue wall, I was like, that's not right. That's fucked.
Then she also goes by like the
armory,
hall of armors and stuff, and there's like all like the props and costumes like on display. And it's like we've seen that in like you. I don't know if it happens very often, but if you go buy like an MCU film on DVD, you go to like the extras, and there'll be a bit where they're talking about in this film we did A, B, and C, and there's always like a B-roll shot of just like people talking in that office, and it's like. What the hell?
The craziest thing is, and it is kind of like, well, of course it is, but the security, or not the security, but the front desk dude is the real front desk dude. So like, there's a lot of
is it?
Yeah. So there's a lot of people
That's
like
sick.
tweeting out, being like, "Oh my god, whatever his name is in the thing." Like this is, and they were like, "That's where the NDA is." Like it is. Walking into Marvel Studios, that's what you do, and so it was an in-joke for them.
That's unreal,
which is so fun.
I also did love when he's like, "Oh yeah, just sign this and you can go through it," and she starts to swipe.
Yeah,
and it's a very aggressive, just like keeps going and going and going. I love that, but I also love just her like being in like the writer's room, and she's like, who thought of this? It's like, why did you guys think this was a good idea?
Yeah.
Because it's whenever we all talk about things, we sit here and there will be one moment where we're like, who the hell thought of that?
Yeah.
It's like, I love that it was just very aware.
Totally.
They know that that's what fans do. Like, we just sit here and go, who thought of this and why?
The funniest thing about it all, though, is... And I tried to tweet it without spoiling it, and I think I ended up deleting the tweet because I couldn't work out how to word it. But
just too scared to spoil it.
I didn't want to spoil it because people want to... And this episode just, like... It makes me go, did they make really shit shows up until now just for this to work? Like, because all she's doing is complaining about the things that, I mean, I've personally hated about every Disney Plus show, is she's like, oh, all these, like, storylines are converging and it doesn't make sense and it's too much and this finale doesn't have time. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you fucked up every show. And it's like, cool that you're addressing it in here, but it feels really weird. And I don't mind it. Like, I think it's perfect, and I think again it's funnier because they've done it. But it's like, are you gonna make good things now? Like, now that you're aware that is bad. Like,
here's my thing with it all is that, like, I think it's very clever, and I love them doing that whole thing with Kevin in the robot and all that stuff. But then I'm like, it's either more funny or less funny because you're talking about exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And it's like, her entire, as you said, her entire monologue in there is about, like, all the things that are wrong with most Marvel properties. And it's like, okay, but then, like...
Why are you fixing it?
You know this. Like, even going down to, like, the VFX thing and being like, the VFX is too expensive. The little beat of the drums, fantastic. The little beat of the Wakanda drums.
Yeah.
But then it's just this thing where it's like, the rest of it was like, okay, yeah, you're acknowledging there's story problems. That was like, you're acknowledging there's VFX problems with the teams being too thinly spread.
You're so aware.
So that's a thing of like, okay, well, now we're dipping into, like, are you actually going to fix that shit? Because, like, that's something you can feasibly fix versus like, the rest of it is like kind of how it's all been set up and all that thing. So yeah, it's this weird thing of like, I think it's very clever and like a very good way to end this show and makes a lot of sense for this show. But then it's kind of the one thing that hasn't sat well with me since is like, it's them making light of what they do wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of like another show parodying it and being like, this is messed up.
Totally. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, it's like, I like that one of their shows has done it and one of their shows has like leaned into that side of things, and like maybe Deadpool will do that as well to an extent. But like, yeah, I'm just curious. Does that mean things are going to change at all? I don't think it does.
No. Yeah, you've made the audience aware now. If anyone was unaware of the Marvel formula, you've just stated it for them, and so you can't come back from that. So dangerous. Very ballsy thing. But on top of it all, go on.
I was just going to say just one super quick shout out to just the X-Men little wink. Nodding a wink.
Yeah.
And then
so good.
She does it and like she looks at the camera.
Like, I got you.
I got you guys.
What a moment.
It's too good.
Love it.
Yeah, no, I adore it. On top of all of it, though, it is fun and it's exciting. And as much as it does kind of detract from what the possible plot ending would be, it is wonderful just how much it relates to what the show has always been about, which is Jen trying to find her place in her own story. And it's like, because like we keep saying, the Deadpool stuff is very off the cuff and like so random, but like every other fourth wall break in this, it is so intrinsic to what the journey she is on, to whatever is, you know, important to the plot. And then this, like having her basically stare down Kevin and be like, listen, it's my story. All this other shit is so distracting. Let this be about me for once.
Yeah.
And, you know, tying that back into like, you know, the early episodes of trying to get a job in the industry and all of that. It is such a wonderful, like perfectly constructed show to allow for all the fun, but also just letting Jen shine through like every second of it. So I was like, it could have gone wrong. It could have been like a fun, dumb moment and back to the plot, but it is just like serving the plot in a way that I don't think any other like cameos in other Marvel shows really do. Like, you know, when Okoye and the gang rock up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's like, oh yeah, sick. But like, I mean, shouldn't we be focused on Sam's story? Like, what are we doing over there? It's like there was constantly, whereas this, it's like, oh, Wong's here to help Jen kind of understand more about herself. Same with Daredevil. Like every element that was dragged through from the wider MCU and the 4/4 breaks is all there to serve the story. And I just really hope that they've learned that is what makes a show. Like it isn't the fact that Wong is here; it's the fact that Wong is here for this reason and stuff like that. So I think that's why the show has worked so well. Is even when they're like little fun gags, I'm still like, oh, that's important. Thank you.
Can we talk about Scar and his horrible haircut?
Yeah, we can talk about Scar.
He's got a bad haircut. That's all I wanted to say.
He's got. I saw a tweet where someone was like, "Do you reckon that he wasn't in the episode?" And then Kevin was like, "Oh, we want him in there," and they were like, "Cool, but like hair is hard to do," so they just gave him a shit haircut, and they were like, "Well, you didn't have to see the hair, so there you go, done." You know what I think the awkward thing about Scar is that because we don't have a person, it's like we're not seeing a person. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
It's like Mark Ruffalo is Hulk, so I'm like, oh, I see Mark Ruffalo, and I see Tatiana, but it's like, who the fuck is that? That's just that's a thumb. A thumb has walked on screen.
I was thinking this morning.
I can tell you, it is Will Doosner.
Good.
So there you go.
I love Will Doosner.
I liked him in his movies. We'll never see him again. Like
doesn't even have a Wikipedia page
because Will does nothing.
There you go. Good. Josh is on a roll this
Thank you.
Do we think when are they going to announce the World War Hulk film? Because that's soon, right?
My question was going to be because obviously I thought of this, but because you guys know the comics and everything, obviously this final episode has set up a lot of stuff to go forward, right?
Full stop. Question mark.
It's just Will going.
I mean, there's strong rumors that given the leader is the villain for the next Cap film, that She-Hulk's going to be in that as well. So there's kind of that's where we'll next see her story, if not Daredevil. I don't know what comes out first. And then there has to be some sort of Bruce Banner led project in the works.
So. Yeah, it's this whole thing with the Universal finally losing the rights, which I think is 2023 or 2024.
Right.
Is when that's supposed to happen.
So they're making a movie, but they can't say it yet.
yeah. So there is obviously with bringing in Scar, who is from the World War Hulk storyline from the comics, it's happening. They've been alluding to it from his entire appearance in this was I'm going off to Sakaar and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
So that's clearly what it is, but I think it's literally the thing of even if they can say legally, they're we're just going to make sure those rights fully pass over.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably going to fit into
phase
whatever the heck that phase 5
6 phase 6
6. Wait, is there only space in 6?
Yes.
I don't know, a bunch of stuff just got delayed as well. True. It's all very confusing.
Yeah. I think totally it'll be in that final run up to Secret Wars probably. But it's cool. It's
the thing I'm still very unsure with about it, and this goes back to Sakaar in general, is if you've read the Planet Hulk storyline, it's a completely different.
They haven't done anything.
Completely different story to what they did in Ragnarok, and Sakaar is a totally different planet. Korg and Meek are actual they're not friendly and lovely.
No, they're fighters. They're
fighters and stuff, and all the characters that have been introduced from that area are not at all who they are in the MCU, and so it's kind of weird seeing Scar come in now and
he is a soft
doing
boy,
World War.
He's a very soft boy compared to what the Scar is in the comics.
Totally, but then it's the World War Hulk storyline is also a very serious storyline. So it's so where are you going with it? Is my main thing.
Totally.
It's if you're gonna do that storyline, it's gonna be very different.
Yep.
He's got a 2020 teenager haircut going on. So I don't know. Could be wild. I mean, they've shown that they've turned Hulk into a completely new character, so I'm sure they'll do a great job with it. But it's just no matter if it has the name World War Hulk, it's not going to be.
It's Civil War.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Just to Universal losing the rights.
Yeah.
Are they getting money out of Disney using Hulk?
I assume so. I think it's a shared, similar to Sony. It's a shared.
I think that the thing is he's not allowed to be the lead character in anything, which means that
Which
So I assume they're getting some level of royalties from his appearance, but I think the way Disney is using him to avoid paying too much is that he's never a primary character, or when he does appear, it's like a featuring the Hulk or whatever. So
it just seems so funny, especially at this late stage, because I assume Hulk is probably one of the characters that Marvel, before even Disney bought Marvel, were trying to buy off Universal. Universal are like, no, we're just going to get all this money.
Yeah.
But now they're just going to naturally let it lapse.
Yeah.
And they're going to lose it. But they probably could have got so much money from Marvel, or now way more money from Disney by selling it, and they would have so much more. But now it's just naturally going to just fall off.
Well, because it goes back to when Marvel was really struggling and was basically like, let's sell off all the rights to our stuff. And so they sold Spider-Man and they sold Hulk, which were like their two biggest characters back then, being like, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then the MCU happened. They're like, oh, crap.
Yeah. But totally. They
our
should
two major characters.
They should have sold the Hulk after Ragnarok, when it was like, people want a Hulk movie.
I would have thought Universal would make so much more money if they just sold Hulk back.
Like
they'd make a whole bunch.
Let it slip.
Who knows? They're probably making millions.
Yeah,
still.
probably business.
Disney will probably buy them in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that's pretty much She-Hulk. Obviously, we leave it with Josh and his little finger.
I had one last thing. I liked having more episodes. Shorter episodes and more episodes. I've thought it worked so much better, and I just wanted to point that out because every other show so far has been like 6 episodes at 40-ish minutes.
Yep.
And having, was it like half-hour episodes, and there's 9 of them now?
Yep.
So overall, I think this series is probably a little shorter in terms of time, but loved it. Loved having a little more. It felt like there was more time. Felt like everything was a little more focused, even though there were, a couple of drop-off episodes.
Yep.
I feel like it still worked within the context of the show, and other shows could use that to its advantage to really kind of stay concise and not blow out and then lose track of where they're going towards the finale.
Absolute minimum of 8 episodes just for like any TV show in general. Stop making 6-episode TV. There's not enough time. I don't care if your episodes are like an hour. Like Rings of Power made like a 8-episode season. All the episodes were like an hour and 10 minutes long, and it was still like it's just, I don't get it. I've got COVID, so that's where the thought ended.
No, good.
But my point is, Disney stopped making 6-episode TV shows. None of them are good.
I think the important thing is less, more. I've got COVID too, and more like designing the show, or designing how many episodes around the show. Like, this show needed the more episodes, and it needed to be shorter to be like snappier and more fun. A show like Moon Knight maybe needed an extra couple of episodes, or it needed less episodes and each of them to be an hour and a half. Like, don't be stuck with any sort of formula to the shows. Like, let episodes breathe if they need to, and let them be shorter and more of them if that needs to happen. Because the fact that these first few shows were stuck to that 6-episode format just didn't work. It just did not. So I think
they seem to be leaning away from it as well, from what I've been reading and hearing.
18-episode Daredevil. That's a couple more.
Really?
Yes. And also the
one episode Werewolf by Night.
The big thing that I think they're actually leaning heavier towards is a lot of the shows are going to turn into specials. A lot of the shows are going to fall away from being a show and be an hour-long special, and I think that's going to work beautifully. My hypothesis, I'm just going to use theory, just in case that's the wrong word, is that the Agatha show will become just a 50-minute Halloween special next year.
I hope so, because we don't need
a telly
episode series on that.
We don't need a telly show. No. I think more and more we'll be seeing more specials, which I think they're going to loop back around and just start making movies for the streaming service.
Armor Wars is already a movie.
Yeah, that's true. True. I think we're going to lose. If anything, I think She-Hulk is the formula they may fall to, which is, like you say, Josh, the 30-minute longer and just a bit more poppy. So, no, it's good. If you want to watch the show and you're at the end of this podcast, Emmy, please do watch it. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you want more of us and you're not seeing our faces currently, you can go to youtube.com/each to their own. You can head to Spotify if you are seeing our faces, or any audio place, and just type in ETTO and you'll find us. Because no one else has called a podcast ETTO. It's fucking dumb.
Only restaurants.
That's true.
Only restaurants.
Sam recently discovered.
Yeah. Bloody pasta and pizza.
Pizza.
Disgusting.
Wet pizza.
Et pizza.
Sweaty pizza.
Sweaty pizza. And if you want to support us in any way, you go to patreon.com/each to their own. $3 get into a super secret Discord. But if you give us $7, you'll be able to hear us talk about songs live, Josh.
So good. So, I was going to say monthly. It's not monthly. Maybe a few times a year.
Yeah.
Will and I put on just a fake radio show where we just want to show each other and you some of our favorite songs within a certain theme. So the latest one was live performances.
That's why I said live 6 times in a row.
That's true. You certainly did. So if you just bump up that a little bit, you can grab those extra little podcasts that we do a couple of times a year.
Yeah,
it's good fun. It's always fun. And we recently got a new suggestion for a future episode. So you can suggest stuff at us because we are certainly already running dry.
My pits aren't. But if you want to bump up your Instagram feed, Sam, what can they put into that?
You can put in Sam's Studio AU. It's spelled pretty much how it sounds. Make some cool art there. So if you want to check that out, please feel free.
And Ben.
Nice.
Thanks, mate.
You didn't have one for me, did you?
What do you want to bump up?
I was wondering what you were going to tee up. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah. If you like take my COVID from me, that'd be real nice. I won't say my address, but
Ben, you're fucked. Don't give it.
It's about to change though. You can give your address.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Check
That's true. You've got like 2 weeks to find me before I leave. No, you can head to twitch.tv/ArgonTV where I stream pretty regularly. I'm not streaming there right now because I got COVID, but I will be soon. And you can also see me all around the Edos doing Edo stuff. We got a comic cast coming out soon because Gotham Knights is coming out and we're doing some quarter hours.
And we don't know what it sounds like yet, but we'll know what it sounds like tomorrow.
No. Yeah.
It may sound more energy than this.
I hope so.
Or less. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this 1 and 8 minute long She-Hulk spoiler cast. If you want more of these, stick around because we've still got 3 more Marvel projects to talk about this year. And it's very exciting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It feels...
What do we have?
We have, we've got to talk about Werewolf by Night. We haven't talked about that yet. But we also have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and ending the year with the Guardians Holiday Special.
Oh, yeah.
They still are pretending that it doesn't exist. But it does. Specials. That's what it does at the start of the
Yeah, with like 4 different fonts.
Yeah, it fucks me up.
It's really weird.
We'll talk about this in the other podcast. All right, until the next time, I've been Will.
I've been Josh.
I've been Sam.
And I've been Ben.